questions today. Over the last 24 hours, we've had a chance to learn a little bit more about some of the individuals involved, specifically that 17-year-old student. My question, Superintendent, is to what extent was the district aware that before this shooting that took place, this student was already facing a firearms charge and had been placed on probation?
Thank you for your question. The district was not aware. Remember, we had over 200 schools, but East was, and they had regular routine with the student. I believe what happened yesterday, although unexplicable and definitely unforeseen, there was a common administrator who would normally engage with the student upon arrival. That administrator was not available, hence two others, and perhaps that prompted. It's hard to speculate, but that's what we've learned. And in terms of the particulars about the student, East, of course, was aware, as are other schools when it comes to students' history or current plans.
So just so I understand, the district was not aware, but staff at East was aware of the criminal past of the student?
That is correct.
And yet he was still allowed to come to school?
That is correct. There are a lot of students that are struggling, whether it's emotional, academic, or behavioral, and we receive students all throughout the year. We are obligated to provide a free and adequate education for all students. So, of course, our doors will continue to be open for all students.
Even if a student has a prior firearms charge?
That is correct, yes.
Joyce Arizari, 9 News. Are administrators supposed to be the ones patting down these students? And if so, will that policy be changing now, since we do have armed officers in schools or expected?
Thank you for that question. So we use this as an opportunity to clarify the procedures. An armed officer, whether it was an SRO or an armed officer that happened to be on site, would have never patted down that student. An officer, in order to search a student, they need to have probable cause. It is practice for an educator to have that leeway under the caretaker exemption. So those of us who've done it, I see several administrators who had worn that hat. We need to have consent of the student or the parent and engage in the search with possibly authority watching and supervising. So it is common practice across the nation under the caretaker exemption law.
Will that change now?
It will not change. That will continue to be our policy.
Finally, with Denver 7 News, Dr. Marrero, I'm hoping you could help us answer this question for the dozens of parents who've reached out to us. But there was no question that gun violence was prevalent near the school. In September, we had an East High School teenager who was shot in the face. We had a fatal shooting of an East High School teenager right next to the school in February. Parents are asking, why did it take someone to actually be shot at the school for you to reinstate an armed officer at this particular school?
Thank you for your question. It's hard to measure when it is enough to take swift action. What makes this situation very different than the other, it is the third. My fourth visit to Denver Health. But also, it did happen inside of our buildings. So that changes things significantly. Hence why I decided to act the way that I did, and I was incredibly reassured and encouraged when I learned that the board was incredibly supportive, but also are going to push me a bit further on how to support our schools moving forward. Yes, we're starting with East, but we have already canvassed and there is a desire, and we're looking forward to collaborating, and hopefully the mayor will honor what he has offered us, and that will be more than just East, based on the feedback we received.
And just to be fair, I want to extend this question to Ayante Anderson. Mr. Anderson, you led the way.
Today we're just going to be having President Gaytán speak on behalf of the Board of Education and Superintendent Marrero on behalf of Denver Public.
So I can't ask the question for Mr. Anderson right now?
Not today.
Okay. Was he part of the conversations in the closed session and the meeting throughout the day?
He was.
May I please ask him the question? I've spoken to him about this matter before.
That's not today. We're just going to stick with President Gaytán on behalf of the board and Superintendent Marrero. Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Nico Brambilla with the Denver Gazette. How many other students require a pat down under the safety plan patterns?
I can't share that information. What I can say is that that number is very, very fluid and it fluctuates. On any given day, we can have an additional student put on a plan, and also a plan can expire. So I'm not at liberty to share the specifics.
Why, it's just a number.
As I mentioned, there's no way for us to pinpoint. Every day it changes, so it fluctuates.
Brother Dawson, KOA, for either Dr. Marrero or Ms. Gaytán. You said this meeting, this closed session was emotional. Why?
I want to share my heartfelt answer to the question in that I myself, as a mother of a 15-year-old in this district, and when I sit in those sessions, in those executive sessions, and we discuss matters of safety, I'm also thinking about my child. And I think about the death of the student that we failed, the death of the student from yesterday, how we could have, as a society, as a city, could have done more. And we, the Denver Public Schools Board of Education, have been asking local city officials and state officials for support. We've been asking this for quite some time. And I also hope, in collaboration with the city officials, that they take efficient steps swiftly to provide that support and collaborate with Superintendent Marrero to meet the needs of the directives that we gave in the memo. So the emotions come because many of us sitting here before you are parents with students in the district. And so we were very thoughtful and very careful because we've been in your seats.
Ashley, were you calling me?
No, in front of you.
Ashley,
You'll be next.
Fox 31. Now, according to this new memo that was just passed, armed officers cannot be used for disciplinary issues on campus or in classrooms. What can they be used for? What can they do? And how is this going to keep students safe?
So, when I received the language, what I saw there was an opportunity to, one, respond accordingly based on the needs, wants, desires of our community. I've heard them loud and clear. So that's one, that's what it solves. Making sure that we're responsive to the entire DPS experience, making the students safe, but also the requests of our adults. Secondly, when we have someone on premises, that's a first responder that's there. So that's the immediate response. So we have theoretically gone from 6 minutes in response, which we touted when our partners have engaged in some of the swatting, to 0. So that's an immediate impact that we'll see at these and perhaps other schools.
Thank you. Superintendent Katie Boyce was CBS News 11 down the street. First of all, we obtained some data from Denver Police from 2018 all the way through to now for crimes in Denver high schools that shows that the crimes are really down in comparison in 2022 to 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic years. But they're down so far that many people are very skeptical of that. Did your school system change its policies on how it interacted or reported crimes to police? And if so, has the school system not involved police as much over recent years because of SROs not being in schools in the last couple of years? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I am not skeptical at all in terms of the data. We have looked at it, and I think that's intentional. It's how our campus safety officers engage. Also, it's in response to executive limitations and also honors and ends policy of the board. I also want to acknowledge that there clearly was a dip because of the lack of engagement of in-person instruction during a portion of that time as well.
Well, in 2022, the full year when students were back in session, the numbers were significantly low. Like, for example, at East, 45 crimes at East in 2018 versus only 8. You know, that's a big difference. Is there something different going on there?
That's intentional and by design. That's how we've engaged our Department of Homeland Security.
And then one other question just for the board as well. What is your response to, community concern about today's decision that you're really flip-flopping on your position with SROs being in schools?
I want to first off share for folks that may not know that as a board, we govern under a model called the policy governance model. And so we develop end statements or a vision. End statements means a vision for the district. We also use executive limitations, which are guardrails for our superintendent. He then takes that information and he gets to determine how he will deliver upon this vision. So I want to share with you that in our end statements, which you'll read in the memo that was delivered to the superintendent today, we made it very clear what our safety vision was, from when I first started on the board and to now. We have not flip-flopped. What we are doing is we are including more community engagement, because we did have a one-year-long process back in 2020 where we included community, and we are including them yet once more so that we can hear from them again. So there is no flip-flopping happening. What there is additional community engagement happening with all communities across the district, as Superintendent Marrero is agreeing to do, so that we can come back with a long-term safety plan for all students across the district.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. Sir, any other?
Good afternoon. My name is Officer Francisco Alba. So I'd like to implore you, thank you for having the SROs and have the discussion back to the schools. However, I have to ask the question is, with the newly revised discipline matrix, how do you plan on securing safety with legislation and the students of DPS when it involves officers engaging students and they happen to have a weapon, or they want to change the age of chargeable circumstances from 10 to 13? How do you plan on helping to ensure the safety of the people of the community and the staff?
Thank you for your question. And if I can I introduce you
Yes.
to the East community? So this is one of our partners who's going to support East from here until the beginning of the year. So thank you. Aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, all right. And being so, you, us, DPS, the Board of Education, the community, and also legislation that is being considered now, really provides the answer to that. So don't have an answer on how. I know that we have to work towards that. I acknowledge that there are some competing priorities in terms of what we need to do. The fact that you're re-engaging with the community, you can bring that perspective. So in collaboration, I think we can get to an answer.
As
Forgive
the
me
one
that I don't
who
have the direct answer.
lifted the 2 deans from the floor who were shot onto the stretchers yesterday morning, or Wednesday morning, it is difficult for you in my mind to understand how is it possible that one kid, one adult, is shot in a school, when our hearts and our method is not to say, oh, we've got a fishing barrel here of kids. It's more of we want to help and provide resources for kids. I think that topic or that conversation needs to happen as to how can we better attract the student in a positive fashion using school resource officers.
Appreciate your comments, sir. We need to take a question from Spanish-speaking media. Who is Spanish-speaking media? Right there, Bill.
Hola, mi nombre es Sherry Alfaro, soy periodista de Univisión. Me gustaría, en este momento estamos en vivo en nuestro noticiero, nos gustaría que le dijera a nuestra audiencia en español cuáles son las medidas que se están tomando y por qué creen que le están fallando.
Hemos introducido lo que estamos llamando en inglés un memorandum, que es una directiva que le estamos dando al superintendente para que él lleve a cabo un plan a largo plazo, donde él tiene que desarrollar este plan y decirnos qué va a ser ese plan para la seguridad de todo el distrito. Le vamos a dar de aquí hasta los últimos de junio para llevar a cabo varias reuniones con la comunidad. Así que esa directiva es muy importante para nosotros, para saber qué está pasando ahorita en términos de seguridad. El plan de seguridad que está ahorita es algo temporal y está funcionando porque estamos viendo que van a haber hay menos y menos jóvenes que han llevado a cabo un crimen. Entonces, el hecho de que los medios o cualquier otra persona esté diciendo que esos números han incrementado no es cierto. Pero lo que queremos es un plan a largo plazo y ese es el directivo que le estamos dando ahorita al superintendente. Would you like to add anything else?
Y esa directiva está en línea con el proceso y el plan que el equipo y yo estábamos planificando.
Nos están preguntando, la pregunta que la comunidad latina se está haciendo es si van a establecer policías armados dentro de las escuelas, como si eso se incluya dentro del plan.
Sí, en East eso está ya hecho.
Implementado.
Y en lo demás, la escuela de bachillerato, posiblemente eso depende de la comunidad en cada escuela.
All right, thank you everybody very much for joining us.
I do have one more question for Dr. Marrero.